Welcome back into the film room, guys. I'm your host, Eric Turner, and as always, I'm joined with Anthony Prohaska from Disguise Coverage. Anthony, happy holidays. How was your Thanksgiving, and how was the big dubs on Thanksgiving night?
Man, good food, hanging out with family. That was great. And the only thing that made it better was a Bills victory. It was a nice way to end the night. I was nice and full. I was having eggnog and some dessert and another round of food. And then we get a nice Bills performance, like a,
Yes.
a performance that really, I know the Saints had certain injuries and were depleted in certain areas, but so were the Bills. And I think this victory really answered the bell in a lot of areas for the Buffalo Bills holistically as a team. And then we saw a lot of standout individual performances from this
Absolutely.
game. A couple of them we're going to go through tonight. So it was a really nice overall game for the Bills from a raw stats perspective and from a film perspective. And it's cool to be back here on a holiday weekend breaking it down.
Yeah, Sunday night. It's a little odd, but we got to watch all the games today and even take a peek at some of the all 22 film from the Bills and Saints. A 31-6 win by the Bills. But I want to get your overall thoughts on the game. Again, a big W down in New Orleans. I want to get your thoughts on the game and the injury news that we have.
It sucks that injury happened to Trey. It put a bit of a dark cloud over everything. And everybody was kind of fretting a little bit once he went down, and then we saw the official news confirmed on Friday, and that sucks. It's going to be a big adjustment for this team. I think he's the second most important player on this team aside from Josh Allen, and he does
Yeah.
so much that makes this defense tick. You and I were just talking offline in terms of what the Bills do on defense, and they're not a very complicated defense. They really only do like 3 or 4 things, and then they have little wrinkles or layers to those
Right.
3 or 4 things. But the thing is, everybody on that defense is so good and so coached up and so technically sound in those small things that they do that they're able to consistently execute. And when you remove someone like Tre'Davious White, who is good individually in a vacuum, combined with being good in this scheme, combined with having the chemistry and rapport that he has with that defense and with the secondary, it's a huge loss and one that's definitely going to be talked about. And it's a shame that, again, it's a thing that we're talking about because it's really the only dark mark on that game from Thanksgiving Day, a game where, I mentioned it a little in the intro here. The Bills really answered the bell. We saw them get gashed time and time again against the Colts in the run game. So we saw them come out and they were much more gap sound with much better integrity in the run game. We saw them execute offensively and throw several wrinkles in. I know they had some inefficiencies with the Josh Allen interceptions, but he looked much better, 23 of 28. We saw more Dawson Knox plays. We saw effectiveness in the run game from both Singletary and Matt Breida. We saw Stephon Diggs game plan for by the Bills, and we saw some effectiveness with that. So it was nice to see the answering and the responses that we got from the coaching staff and from the players. And again, the only dark cloud is a huge one with the Tre'Davious White news.
Yeah, and so when we talk about Tre'Davious White, I want to talk about what we do from here, right? So let's talk specifically what we can expect from Dane Jackson. Obviously, he seems like the first guy up. He was in the game. He got some reps, and we've been asked a lot about him and how he did in that game. And aside from that one where he jumped the route to the top of the screen, I thought he played really well, especially against the run, right? I thought he filled very admirably against a play we broke down last week in duo, a doubles run, where last week you saw the corners, Trey White and Levi Wallace, kind of struggle to come up and make the tackle. Well, in this game, Dane Jackson, as soon as he saw that push crack from the wide receiver, he came down, made the tackle. I thought he did really well versus the run. But coverage, yeah, he did bite on one play. But going forward, what does the scheme look like? What does the defense look like with a guy like Dane Jackson in the lineup versus Tre'Davious White?
It's crazy to say. I don't think it changes much. I think the only thing that changes is, again, like you and I were talking offline, the opportunities where the Bills do go man coverage or they go with certain,
Yeah.
one-on-one scenarios like that. I think that gets scaled down, or if it's used much more strategically and sparingly because, Tre'Davious White, for as technically sound as he is, and he's one of the best corners in the NFL, he's not overly athletic. He's not overly strong. He's not a burner. He's not huge. He's not anything like that. So he can get beat from time to time in man coverage, but he's just so good with his technique and his hands and his feet and his hips that he can mitigate a lot of that. Dane Jackson is not at that level. So I think we see more zone coverage. A lot of what the Bills continue to play now with their cover 3 and their quarters coverage, which is something that Dane Jackson has a lot of experience of
Yeah.
coming from the University of Pittsburgh. He's very comfortable in that regard. We saw him make plays last year where he's good at carrying receivers and having a good feel for that zone, but still having his eyes on the quarterback and knowing when to let his man go and come up and take something away. So I think we see a lot more leaning on zone coverage in order to give him that support. And what you mentioned too, like not to kind of talk about his limitations too much, but his run support is tremendous. We saw him stick DK Metcalf last year. We saw him the crack replace is just always beautiful. He did it against Miami last year.
Yep.
He did it again against the Saints. His ability to come forward is going to be tremendous. So I think we might see an uptick in the physicality piece of the defense on the outside for teams that want to run tosses away or teams that want to run those little quick screens and games on the outside. Dane is very good in terms of being a physical tackler and a sound tackler. So I'm confident in him coming forward. How he does in coverage week after week, game after game, snap after snap is the biggest question. But I think we see the Bills revert to a lot more of their, simplistic zone coverages in order to make things as easy for him as possible, and then continue to go with that. Nothing beats us over the top, and we make plays coming forward type defense.
Right. I mean, not having Tre'Davious White's obviously a big loss. He's a technician. But what, he really does early on in plays, a lot of offensive plays have an alert call. They have maybe an isolated receiver and a trips to the other side. They'll isolate Trey White, and put him on an island with another receiver and use an alert. Like, okay, if he's in off coverage, I'm just going to throw a stop route. If he is in tight press coverage, I can throw the go ball. He takes away those early looks, those easy looks when the Bills are in single high looks trying to, stop that run. Trey White will eliminate. And when they do test him, he can make a play on the ball. So I think you're going to see a lot more of those type of goal balls and those shot plays on Dane Jackson, on Levi Wallace in certain situations. And of course, in those high pressure situations, those 3rd and 2s, those 3rd and 4s, when the Bills want to disrupt the quarterback and affect the quarterback, and they go to man coverage, obviously that's going to be a big loss right there, because if you're looking at the cornerbacks that the Bills have, Levi Wallace and Dane Jackson are more similar than say Dane Jackson to Tre'Davious White. So yes, they're not super high profile athletes, but Levi Wallace is more of a technician, but he, again, limited ceiling as far as athletic traits go. Dane Jackson kind of the same way. But as you said, I do think he has his own eyes. He has his own discipline, his own spacing to play in this defense. He's shown that he knows where his teammates are and how to escort a receiver into the next zone over and squeeze those gray areas in between the two defenders in those zone coverages. And I mean, he's comes up, he's a willing tackler, and he's not scared to make those tackles, and he does it with force. And I mean, most of all, I mean, he's made plays in zone coverage. So that's something that I'm excited about for him. And, you hate to say next man up because Tre'Davious White is damn near irreplaceable, but it has to be next man up. If the Bills want to make a run this year, they're going to have to count on Dane Jackson, a guy that the staff and the front office obviously had faith in. That's why they didn't really address that position all that much in the offseason. So they're going to have to go with him. Dane Jackson is the next man up, and he's going to have to make some plays for the Bills if the Bills want to make a deep run in the playoffs. So another guy that the Bills are going to need, as we've seen in the comment section, is that, yes, the front four, the front rotation, the pass rush is going to have to help the back end of this secondary. Yes, there's some really good players in the back end, but without a pass rush, with the Bills' philosophy of only, wanting to rush four, a guy like Ed Oliver, who we're going to break down tonight, they're going to need him to continue his trend, that we've seen the last month and a half from him. So let me get your thoughts on Ed Oliver's season thus far, and then his game against the Saints.
He's had such a good year. We talked about him last week that, you could see in that Colts game that there was some frustration for him because he's just not showing up on the stat sheet, but he's had such a strong year, or such a disruptive year. Much like he did, honestly, he had a good year last year. People didn't really realize it or maybe notice it because he was playing out of position. He was having to wear hats that he wasn't accustomed to with Star Lotulelei being out. But he has been a constant force, a constant disrupting piece, both in the run game and in the pass game. Just honestly, like he's really developing into that player that the Bills had envisioned when they drafted him. And I love what you said, going off of that comment where the Bills front four has to step up. That's exactly what it is with Tre'Davious White going down, right? Like, is the season over? Absolutely not. Anybody saying the Bills are done and we need to write off the Bills, that is 1,000% wrong. But the road just became that much harder and that much more difficult. So everybody has to step up. Can the front four step up? Yes. Can the offense step up? Yes. Can the linebackers, so on and so forth? Everybody. It's just the odds of whether or not those things are going to happen. And if Ed Oliver can continue this play and we can get a couple more pieces to align in that regard, the loss of Tre'Davious White will be mitigated. But it's nice to know that the Bills have a star in the making, no pun intended in connection to Star Lotulelei, but the Bills have a star in the making up front with Ed Oliver and how he's played this year as a whole. And this game against the Saints was really a microcosm of how disruptive as a force he's been this year.
Yeah, and so let's take a look at some stats real quick, even before we jump into the film. So right now, Ed Oliver is 9th in run stop percentage per Pro Football Focus at 11.2%. He's 13th in pass rush productivity rate at 5.6%. And like you said, and even Greg, I think mentioned it on Twitter, is that, we're seeing, Ed Oliver trending in the right direction. And, one thing that I always look at when I'm looking at, some of the stats on players, and obviously sacks are a really big thing, but as we talk about all the time, pressures are just as important and affecting the quarterback. But quarterback hits, he's not getting the sacks, but if you look at quarterback hits for Ed Oliver, he's number 2 in the NFL. So this to me says something, and I'm going to try to bring up the stats right here, Anthony, but talk about, he had 3 sacks last year, 4 QB hits last year. So if you combine those two, he had 7 hits on the quarterback per Pro Football Focus. But talk about, how and why he is trending in that direction of getting a lot more hits on the quarterback, maybe just inches away from actually getting a sack, or some penalties away from getting several sacks this year.
It all starts with his get off on the line of scrimmage. He's so fast coming out of the blocks and coming out of his stance, whether he's in a 3-point or a 4-point stance. He's so fast coming off. And his technique this year with his hands, I think, is his second biggest attribute. His ability to, you'll see a lot, like if you're watching like Hard Knocks or defensive line trainings, it's like random B-roll film. You'll see the defensive linemen that are working with their D-line coach, and they're working on hand techniques. It looks like they're hand fighting. They're like in karate class as little kids. Hand technique is so tremendously important up front. And we have a couple clips tonight that are going to show how good Ed Oliver does with his hands. But his ability to just stay clean, his ability to chop and rip through and just eliminate a lineman trying to get into his body with a punch. He's been so good with that. And when you combine strong hand technique with a strong get off and a high motor, it's the reason he's been able to consistently penetrate and get upfield. And I love what you said about the QB hits, because obviously in a perfect world, we love sacks. We love a guy to get in, sack the quarterback, boom, that's great. But QB hits and pressures are a sign that you're getting the quarterback out of rhythm. You're making life difficult for them back there. And we've seen multiple plays from Ed Oliver this year, not just in this Saints game, but the entire year, where he puts a hit on the quarterback and the quarterback has to throw it early and he just throws it in the dirt, or he hits the quarterback in the arm, ball gets deflected, somebody makes a play on the ball in the air. As long as you are getting to the quarterback and making life difficult for them, that is a tremendous thing. It would be ideal if it was leading or coming down to a sack, but pressures and hits are huge. Ed Oliver is crushing it in that department, and it all starts with his get off from the moment the ball is snapped, combined with his hand technique and ability to just continuously convert speed to power.
Yeah, and what this, QB hit stat tells me, again, aside from, I don't know, 2 or 3, it had to be maybe 2 at the very least, sacks that he should have had if there weren't penalties or whatnot.
Oh, yeah, 2 huge ones.
Yeah, what this is telling me is that he's getting closer. Last year it was 3 sacks and 4 QB hits. This year it's 1 and 9. So it's telling me that, yes, he is trending in the right direction. He's always had the quickness and lateral quickness. He's always had the power move and ability to get up under guys' pads, as we'll see tonight with that bull rush. But what he's doing now with his hands is he's using that speed and his hand usage to get that short edge, to get around offensive linemen and not allow offensive linemen to lock onto him, because he's a shorter statured guy, not long arms. So when there are talented offensive linemen that can just get their hands on him away from their body, he can't get up into them and under their pads. And so I think this year you're seeing what that improved hand usage is allowing him to do, and it shows up on stats like this with this QB hit metric from Pro Football Focus. So I just wanted to, I took a look at that today. I was like, man, that's actually interesting to see when you look at prior years with him and how, how far he's come along and how he's actually starting to put it all together, because it's scary. He's got the speed and athleticism, but when we start to see him use that stuff in conjunction with his hands, because that's always been an issue with him, his improved hand usage is really standing out on film, as you will see here. So on this play, first quarter, 3rd and 10 situation, ball's on the 17-yard line in New Orleans. The Saints are in the shotgun. The ball is on the Saints' right hash, so on the left side of the screen here, 3rd and long. And Oliver, you see him coming up to the line of scrimmage here in a 2-point stance, and just watch his lateral quickness and how he uses his hands on this play as well. So ball is snapped. Simeon's dropping. Obviously, they have to push the ball down the field, so Oliver has time. And he does this little shimmy on the left guard here and plants off that left foot and shoots into the B gap to the left of the guard here. And just watch as the offensive lineman, the guard, tries punching out with his outside hand. So his left hand in the B gap, trying to deter Ed Oliver from jumping into that B gap. But watch the hand usage and counter from Ed Oliver. So he's accelerating off that left foot into the B gap, and then he shrinks his surface area and rips with his left hand. So he gets up under the armpit of that guard, and you just watch him work through this, because after he does that, then you see him bending around the edge there. And again, he's using that rip, that hand usage to push that outside arm by to get that edge to clear that guard. That has been his number one issue. He could always win early because of his quickness, but now he's incorporating the hands to get that short edge and get around the guard here. Unfortunately, they have a shallow crossing route right here to this wide receiver, wide open, because again, the Bills are defending deep. And you see the quarterback get rid of it, but there's one of the hits on the quarterback. So that, look how close he is to actually getting to the quarterback on this play. Again, things are trending in the right direction for Ed Oliver.
1,000%. Also, I just want to mention, in case somebody comes out here and is like, that guy was so wide open, like coverage is terrible. It is 3rd and 10. Edmonds, Milano, and I think Taron Johnson all come up and rally and make the tackle, and they force a punt. So just want to pump the brakes in case anybody was like, terrible coverage. Yeah, you nailed it all on the head. I love that chop. If you can chop a offensive lineman's punch at the right time, they are completely defeated. He gets that chop in, and like you said, creates that short edge. And once he gets the guard like put horizontal while he is still generating speed upfield and his momentum is not deterred, right there, when he starts to transition to that rip, the guard is done. We've also seen this, this play results in a QB hit. We've seen Ed Oliver do this a bunch this year, the same kind of move, and it's the reason he's generated so many holding calls against him, because when you get a guard in this position, they're either going to get beat, majority of the time, they're either going to get beat or they're going to have to hold you and draw a penalty. Ed continues to fight through, and I love how right here when he clears the guard and he starts to flatten, he doesn't get too far upfield. He doesn't continue going too vertical to the point where he allows Simeon to kind of step up and avoid him. He takes that flatter angle, flattens as he bends, and gets right to the spot and makes Simeon have to make that throw when he clears the guard. And it's all such a beautiful thing to have that hesitation move, to have the chop, to have the rip and the bend. It's all different technical pieces that you get taught, and he's combining them all into one move and one rep in the blink of an eye in order to cause havoc.
Yeah, this is now here's a run stop, and I don't know why teams
this is my favorite
anymore.
one.
I don't know why teams try to run zone away from him and have a right tackle here try to reach block Ed Oliver, who's in wide 3, more of a 4-eye. So let's set this play up. Second quarter, 1st and 10. Ball's on the 49-yard line, 3:13 on the clock. Again, no gain tackle here from Ed Oliver. Just watch how they try reach blocking him. So again, the right guard with the ball in the right hash. The right guard cannot stay that long on the double team. You see him punching out, trying to punch Ed Oliver, and usually they're trying to hit the shoulder plate right here so they could turn him and allow the right tackle to work to the front side to reach him. Well, he can't because of, first, look how low to the ground Ed Oliver is. And Ed is a tad late on this as well. I'll say that, and he still wins this, which is incredibly important on this play. So the guard can't stay long on this combination block. He has to climb to Edmonds because, of course, he's got to try to angle him off, and that guy's an athlete. So he can't punch at Oliver on this play. And watch how quickly Oliver gets into the gap there. Look at how quickly he gets across the face of this right tackle and just totally disrupts this play. Again, using that rip. Look at him. He gets in the gap, he inserts into his gap, and then he rips through this arm block from the right tackle. And just watch. Look at him by. He clears him, gets by him, and now he's taking the angle to the ball. Again, zone run to the left, so right to left on the screen, and he just cuts him off. The running back cannot continue his track back this way. And his eyes, the running back's eyes, technically brought him to Ed Oliver. Well, Ed Oliver just suffocated that run and suffocated that read, and the running back only took a few steps. So now he's going to try to cut it back, and that's when you see Ed trip him up, and then the rest of the defense come and rally to the ball. Just incredible quickness off the snap. And I love how he analyzed this blocking. Like, I'm going to try to show you the stills. Watch his helmet shift left or right. And what he's doing right there, he's analyzing the footwork, all right? He's analyzing the footwork of these guys. You see this right tackle, both of his feet are almost, they're not staggered that much. You can see everyone else has kind of a stagger to them. Why? Because he cannot have, it's much more difficult. If this left foot is up and this right foot is back, it's much more difficult for him to take that bucket step to try to reach at Oliver. So he has to, we talked about this with Deion Dawkins on one of the zone runs earlier in the year. This came up where the footwork was a little off. And you can see Ed kind of analyzing that. And of course, once a ball is snapped, forget about it. He's too quick.
It's the mental side of the game, I think, is such a hard piece for people to realize or understand and look. And you hit it right on the head. Like, and I love that you have it in this clip. You can see him like, okay, I'm aligned. Look at this guy's inside foot. Look at this guy's inside foot. Okay, I think I know what's coming. And even as he's analyzing, and as he's analyzing, they snap the ball. And you're right, like, he doesn't have the best get off here, but his speed once he starts going is so disruptive. In zone blocking schemes, you know, you already started to speak about it. Like, it's built on those double teams. Then you get those double teams on that first level, and you climb to the second level. And what's beautiful about a zone scheme for an offense is the running back gets to kind of choose. It's like a choose your own adventure type of story. So say Ed Oliver gets, you know, Hayden Hurst here, the right tackle. Say he not Hayden Hurst, but I forget his name. Yeah, James Hurst. There you go. Hayden Hurst is the tight end. Yeah. Say James Hurst is able to cross Ed Oliver's face here, right? And he's able to hook him. Tony Jones can plant his foot. He can get upfield. He can run right off of Cesar Ruiz's right leg, and he can cut and get upfield. Or if Ed Oliver is too fast, Hurst instead can just wash him right down. Yeah. And then Tony Jones, like you mentioned, he can see that. He can cut back, and he can cut off of James Hurst again between the tight end. And I try to make Taron Johnson make this play on the backside. But Ed Oliver is so fast, and he moves with such great leverage and low center of gravity and technique that he completely blows the play up. So he's too fast inside to allow Hurst to cross his face and seal him. And then he gets so much penetration upfield that Hurst isn't able to push him down and wash him out so that Jones can cut back and try and make a play. It's beautiful. And you mentioned it in the lead-in for this, like why teams continue to do this. He's like the perfect guy that a defense wants on that backside responsibility on a zone run because of the leverage he plays with, because of the get off that he has. He can disrupt everything from the backside. I hate doing comps, and especially this one because people have always said it about him, but Aaron Donald does this a whole bunch. You get those quicker 3-tech defensive tackles. If they're able to penetrate like that off the backside on a zone run, it can destroy an entire play. And he literally shuts this entire thing down because of the way he gets off and gets that penetration. Again, zone blocking allows you to do so many things. And his win on this play is so significant that it destroys the whole thing. And there's no chance of winning for that offense.
Yeah, it was, again, one of my favorite plays from that game as well. Same. And every week, you know, these zone teams keep trying to run away from him on zone. You're better off running directly at him with combinations, with inside zone, downhill type runs, running away from him and asking a backside offensive lineman to scoop and reach him. It's pretty much never going to happen in that situation. So,
and this real quick with that, like that,
yeah.
this Bills defense is built for that kind of stuff. They are built to go sideline to sideline and chase things down. Like, so to attack them directly and head on, a la what the Colts did, that's more ideal for teams. So what the Saints did in several of these plays, trying to speed them, it just works right into the Bills' defensive advantage.
Yeah, totally, man. And we're going to move forward to play number 3 of this breakdown. 3rd and 10 situation, balls on the New Orleans 32-yard line. Shotgun formation, balls at the center of the field. This is a pass that goes over the middle, but I want you to watch Ed Oliver. And this is the type of stuff the Bills are going to have to do. All right, they're going to have to mug. They're going to have to show pressure. This pressure, you can see everyone is mugging a gap, and they do bring a 5-man pressure, but you don't know what side is coming because, as you can see, I have a line right down the middle of the offense. You have the center, left guard, left tackle, responsible for the 3 to the left. So Ed Oliver, Obata, and Mario Addison in a 2-point, and then you have 3 on 4. So the right guard, right tackle, and running back 3 versus 4. Tremaine Edmonds, Matt Milano, Jerry Hughes, and Jordan Poyer off to the right-hand side. So basically on that side, since the Saints are down, the running back is usually going to be in a scan protection. So he's going to be working inside out. So he'd be working usually Edmonds to Poyer on this play because they are down 1 here. So I want you to watch what happens here because this is actually set up, I believe, for Jerry Hughes to loop around. But the Bills knew what protection they were going to get, and they knew that Ed Oliver was going to have an advantage right here with his speed going across the face of the center. So watch on the snap. You see Oliver, again, explode laterally all the way across the face of the center. He starts just inside the guard, left guard, and then works all the way back across the field into the A gap. And just watch, we talked about his power at the beginning. Watch the power that he brings to this center. So here's the loop. So you have Oliver slanting to that A gap, and here comes Jerry Hughes from the right side of the screen all the way back to the A gap that Oliver just exited. And it's a nice little game in there. And Oliver has to occupy that center. He has to get up into the body. He absolutely does. Look at how that center's pad level are just up or high. And I mean, he's on his toes right there. Ed Oliver is under his pads. He's up into his chest. You see him pushing him back. And that center he's recognizing this stunt, this looper coming with Jerry Hughes, as does the left guard coming to help and kind of shut down that opposite A gap. But because Ed Oliver is in the kitchen of this center, he can't get off of that block. He is being pushed back by Ed Oliver and the power of him. And then again, that hand usage, I don't know if you guys can see it, but that left hand right there up under the armpit of that center is what helps him push the center towards the middle of the field, towards where Jerry Hughes is going. And then that allows him to clear. And you see Ed Oliver seal that leverage right here with his hand usage right there, the right arm over the top of the right arm of the center as that center is trying to retreat. Ed Oliver's already by him. He clears the hands, and that's when he is able to reach home on Simeon right there and gets another hit on the quarterback on this play.
This is a really good one because it ties into some of the things we talked about with what the defense is going to have to do in Tre'Davious White's absence. So this isn't overly complicated. You know, they're showing 7 guys at the line of scrimmage, but it's a matter of, okay, who's coming, who's blitzing. And on this play, Tremaine Edmonds drops out, Mario Addison drops out. You get a bit of a different look. And the Bills just execute up front. I love give the still of Ed Oliver's hand when it's underneath the armpit of McCoy. I think it's right there. Look at how, like, if you're looking at, so first off, Erik McCoy is a very good center for the New Orleans Saints. If you're looking at his body, and for those listening, I kind of want to, break it down as well. There's no weight on like the front foot of Erik McCoy. Ed Oliver is underneath him, like from a leverage perspective. So his helmet is right at shoulder pad level of McCoy. He's on a lean. He's on an angle. He's driving through Erik McCoy. McCoy is too high. He's already bracing and putting a lot of weight on his inside left foot because he's starting to get driven back already. This rep is done for Erik McCoy. He has lost, and Oliver continues to get vertical, drives through him, and McCoy tries to brace a little bit. And you know what? Honestly, hats off to him for still trying to help a little bit on Jerry Hughes. But Ed knows what his responsibility is in trying to drive through to clear things up for Jerry, but he wins so well on that he ends up just sealing it with that leverage. And you showed it right there. He clears the hands and gets through, takes a really nice quality path to the quarterback, doesn't set himself up for failure, beelines it, quarterback hit. And again, another example of this is not going to show up on the stat line, right? So when you go to ESPN or NFL.com and you look at the game stats after this and you don't see, a sack for Ed Oliver and you're like, man, Ed must not have done anything in this game again. Like he probably only had like one tackle and no sacks. Like, no, look at things like this. He destroys this play. This is a win for the defense. They have to punt. Bills get the ball back. Huge win for them on this series again. And it's all created by a QB hit from Ed Oliver. Again, just being a dominant force inside. I felt bad for Trevor Siemian on this one. And McCoy, a great snap again.
Yeah, and I have some stats right there on the screen, next-gen stats. Ed Oliver is, on average, 3.93 yards from the quarterback, where the league average is at 4.53 yards. So, again, he's getting closer, guys, as you can see on this play and some of the plays we've broken down already. I think those sacks are going to come. I really do. And he should have more than he already has, but his hands are really getting him close to the quarterback now, and it's great to see. Just like on this play, right? The next play we're going to look at is towards the end of the second quarter here. 2nd and 10 situation, ball near midfield. Again, the Saints are in the shotgun. This was a sack here that was split between Oliver and Obata, but Oliver is in a 4-eye technique, so he's just inside the left tackle on the screen, as I labeled it. Watch his tenacity, the speed, the hand quickness, and how he counters. Like when you're countering, when you see a guy, a defensive lineman or offensive lineman countering what their opponent is throwing at them, like you see Ed Oliver do here and what he did in this game and in the last few weeks, that takes a certain level of processing, studying, understanding, all on the fly. And so on the snap, watch Ed Oliver go back and forth with this offensive guard here. So on the snap, you see him fire out, and right there, he's using his right hand to chop down on the left hand of the guard. So the left guard went to punch out, and Oliver chopped it down. And again, you see the counter from the guard. What he tries doing is almost like a flipper technique, kind of just using his forearm to kind of wall off at Oliver. So he, kind of keeps him at a distance. He just lost the hand battle. So he's now trying to body Ed Oliver so that he can't get past him. So watch what Ed Oliver does. Again, we talked about his hand usage. Well, he still has the feet. He still has the lateral quickness. He just he switches modes instead of going from, more of a speed rush. Now he's going to use his lateral quickness to kind of side swipe that guard. So right there, he re-engages as he's moving his feet from left to right and gets his hands on the guard. And you see the guard recover with his hands. So now he's, punching with two hands and creating separation between himself and Ed Oliver. But again, Ed Oliver keeps his feet moving here. And what's he do? He lands a long arm after the space is created. He lands this long arm right there. So he's got the left arm up in the shoulder. Look at the hand placement, perfectly on point. Now he's in a dominant position because now he's got the guard at length. He's got possibly a short edge. And you see his right hand here. This is what's super important. Watch him lift that hand right there. Look at the hand control as he lifts that outside hand, that left hand. So a long arm lift. That gives him a short edge. He clears him. Again, look at him move his feet, right? He gets his feet into the gap. And then now he's got the line to the quarterback. And now he and Obata are meeting at the quarterback. You see Oliver go low for the tackle here in the sack with Obata, man. This was some awesome stuff. We love watching the trenches because of that, counter punch mentality, that boxing mentality, that back and forth that you can visually see. This was one of those plays, and I hope we see a lot more of these as the season progresses.
I love that you mentioned like the boxing aspect and the back and forth because, players are always processing and they're always learning and they're always adjusting, right? So this is the same guard who Ed Oliver beat in the first clip that we showed where he created that short edge and he was able to chop down the punch attempt and immediately transition into that rip through and flatten, right? So a similar thing starts to happen on this play, but this time the guard, He knows how he got beat last time, right? So he adjusts. He hits that flipper technique that you mentioned, Erik, and he doesn't want to get beat right away. He gets that, Ed gets that chop. The guard knows what happened last time, so he throws that arm out there to try and keep Ed at bay because he's like, no, last time you did this, you beat me right inside with that rip. I'm not letting it happen. I'm going to set you back up. I'm going to try and get some extension. I'm going to try and create some separation. I'm not going to I'm not going to let you turn me horizontal right away and win this rep.
And look at the guard's feet. Look at his base. It's so wide there after that counter.
Yep, because he got nailed in the beginning. He got hit being narrow and just got completely blown by. So he's trying to set that base. He's trying to reset. And we talked about the mental piece a couple plays ago when Ed was analyzing the stances of the guard and the tackle in front of him on that backside zone play, right? The mental piece is huge. The ability for him to get hit in this rep and reset. He almost resets. He analyzes the spot in the pocket and sees what the guard is doing in front of him. And he's like, okay, all in the blink of an eye. So we're breaking this down and talking for like 2-3 minutes on this one thing. He's doing all of this in the span of like 0.75 seconds.
Right.
So he sees the positioning of the guard in front of him, knows what he has to do. He resets. He gets that long arm beautifully right into that armpit and shoulder pad area. So he takes his left arm, gets it onto the inside of the right arm of the guard. So that way he can control him. He gets that stability. And then he literally, again, for those of you who aren't watching and you're listening on the audio version, Ed Oliver literally takes his hand and he puts the wrist of the guard's inside arm. He puts that wrist between his index finger and his thumb and just lifts it, almost like you're lifting a bar at the gym or you're lifting some kind of like lever, and just lifts his inside arm, transition right into the hole with his footwork, continues his rip through, straight line to the quarterback. He's doing all of these technical, physical pieces while at the same time calculating, okay, here's the snap. I'm about to do this. Okay, that didn't work. Reset. What's the plan? Here's what the guard's feet are. Here's where his arms and his upper body are. There's where the QB is. Boom, done. And he's through. And we get another disruptive play. Tremendous technique and mental progression from Ed Oliver. Again, we talked about in the beginning, a star in the making. He's operating on another level, and the Bills are going to need him to, because with someone like Tre'Davious White down, everybody, coaches, players, offense, defense, special teams, everyone, they all need to step up and make more plays. And Ed's been operating on another level all year, and with what we've seen from this Saints game, if that can continue to track and trend, it's huge for this defense because he's been a monster.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch with him, and everything is, again, pointing in the right direction with him, and hopefully he can even take it to another level because, again, we talked about the Bills are going to need it when it comes to the pass rush to help that secondary and the loss of Tre'Davious White. So let's jump over to the offensive side of the ball. We appreciate everyone tuning in. We're going to take a look at a few plays from the offense, and I'm going to get your thoughts on the offensive performance from the top down, man. What were your thoughts on the Bills' game plan versus the Saints?
I loved it. I watched a decent amount of the Eagles versus Saints last week, and the Saints did a really good job of outgapping the Eagles did a really good job of outgapping the Saints on defense. They used a lot of that option offense. When you got a QB like Jalen Hurts, it makes sense. They were just wasting edge rushers left and right, creating gaps and opening holes in the middle with that option offense. They were using a lot of nub formations and then running to that tight end side and creating mismatches against corners and linebackers out there. They were using formations to drag Gabriel Davis out from the center of the field and more towards like the trip side. So that way they can continue to attack with the run game. The Bills deployed a lot of that early on. The first 12 plays for the Bills offense, 9 rushes, 3 passes. And those passes were play action and RPO looks very similar to what the Eagles did out of those nub formations, out of those looks where they could create mismatches with Allen in the run game. We saw several runs from Allen. I liked what this game plan was right out of the gate from the Bills. It's a short week. You came off a bad loss. They were able to pinpoint a weakness in the Saints defense, which is a good defense. They number 1 in the league in DVOA against the run, 4th in terms of second half defensive DVOA, 7th in late and close game DVOA defensively. They're a good squad up front, and the Bills attacked them early. They pinpointed a weakness, they attacked it, and that gave the offense the ability to just kind of take a breath. And once that happened, we saw Josh Allen having a little bit of fun. We saw him disperse the ball around a little bit. We saw Stephon Diggs work some beautiful routes against a tremendous corner in Marshawn Lattimore. We saw multiple victories across the offense here for the Bills. And I think it all started with that game plan and how to attack the Saints and get out in front of them early.
Yeah, one thing I liked, honestly, was and we're looking at some Pro Football Focus stats, specifically the play action, because I think, we talked with Jay Feely a couple weeks ago about, putting Josh Allen under center and, given the defense the illusion of the run. I thought there were some decent runs when they did that all together. If you look at the box score, the final stats, you're probably like, oh, it actually wasn't that impressive, but it felt different in the game, right? And some of those stats are probably jacked up anyways towards the end of the game when they're just running out and the Saints are run blitzing anyway. So that, does affect the stats. But I felt in the game, the runs they're pretty good. They're blocked up pretty good for most of them. And the running backs did run really well. They're very decisive. I thought you saw the difference between having a guy like Breida in there versus Moss, and how his speed and athleticism to stop on a dime and cut back on the backside of those zone runs, which we're seeing the name Spencer Brown in the chat a lot. I can't wait for him to get back in the lineup, and even Feliciano for that matter, because, having a guy like Spencer Brown, when you're running those wide zone runs or pin and pull runs off to your left, having those cutback lanes with Spencer Brown in there, we saw it, mid-year, earlier in the year. That is going to be a strength for the Bills offensive line and run game. So I thought the run game was good. They showed the illusion of the run, but the play action, as you can see, the Bills ran play action 38.2% of the time. We saw Josh complete 10 out of 13 passes for 108 yards, but more importantly, 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. So I thought the play action passes, which we're going to break down, we're going to talk about the play action pass from Allen to Knox out of shotgun in the red zone. We're going to talk about the play action pass from Josh Allen to Knox again towards the end of the game. And then we're going to throw in the Gabriel Davis play, which is a very similar play because it just – the sequencing and the look, the illusion that the Bills were selling in those plays with the personnel groupings was just awesome to see. So we're going to take a look at some of those plays. But what were your thoughts on how Dable schemed up versus the Saints defense? Again, the Saints defense has some really good players on there. And specifically, I want you to talk about Dawson Knox, because we're going to break down 2 plays that he had, his 2 touchdowns. And I want you to talk about, his record-breaking day and year so far, his breakout performance of 2021, and how important he is to Josh as a security blanket. Because, I was looking at his stats, and you're going to name some stats and how he broke the record here in a second. But right now, 31 receptions, 415 yards, 7 touchdowns. More importantly, if you look at his Dawson Knox's receptions versus single high coverages, all right, versus single high coverages, because Dawson Knox is an intermediate threat, and that's where Josh Allen loves to throw, in that intermediate area. 13 receptions, 236 yards, and 4 touchdowns are versus single high looks in that 10 to 19-yard range. So talk about Dawson Knox and the Bills offense and how important we're seeing Dawson Knox to this offense.
Yeah, he's been a really nice piece this year. We came into this offseason talking about a potential upgrade at tight end, and then every day was like Zach Ertz watch. And part of that was because whether or not Dawson Knox was going to take the jump. And he's really had such a strong year and been such a bright spot. So you mentioned some of his numbers. So he's got 31 catches for 415 yards, 7 touchdowns. He currently is the owner of the single season touchdown receiving mark for a Bills tight end. He passed Scott Chandler and Pete Metzelaars this past week with those 2 touchdown catches. So he is the Bills single season touchdown catch leader for tight ends as of right now. He also set a personal single season high with receptions already this year. And then just some other numbers. Pete Metzelaars, he holds the tight end receptions record in a single season with 68. Again, Knox has 31 as of now. And then Paul Costa holds the yardage record for tight ends with 726 in 1967. Dawson Knox sits at 415 right now. He'd obviously be at an even higher clip had he not missed time due to injury. And, you mentioned where he's been working. And part of that is due to how Dable's been scheming him open in that intermediate area. He he's in that prototypical mold of a mismatch. He is big and he is fast and strong. So he's a mismatch for corners who want to try and cover him because he can use his physicality. He is a mismatch for linebackers because he's faster than they are and he's more athletic than they are. And what we saw in this game against the Saints and what we've seen when Dawson Knox has really been cooking for the Bills this year, Dable has set him up in scenarios where he's able to manually and consciously create those mismatches. And that's what football is. Football is a game of matchups. And if you have a matchup, you go to it time and time again. To keep bringing it up, we saw what the Colts did. The Colts realized they were a step ahead of the Bills. They kept spamming that wham and those traps. Boom, they took advantage. They kept scoring. For the Bills, they're able to create mismatches with Stephon Diggs and with someone like Dawson Knox. Dawson Knox has been a walking mismatch this year, and part of it stems from when we're going to showing these plays, the threat of the running game and his ability to sell blocks on defenders and create that split-second hesitation and then be able to take advantage using his athleticism and the God-given traits and abilities that he has to win out in space and win with the ability that he has. So it's a huge credit to the next level jump that Dawson Knox has made, but it's an even bigger credit to Dable for scheming him open with these play calls that are built upon looks that they've established earlier in the game.
Yeah, and here's that first touchdown. Again, we're shotgun formation, 2-by-2 set. We see Knox to the top of the screen, off the line of scrimmage, and Josh Allen's going to fake the ball to Breida. But first, I want to want you guys to pay attention to Gabriel Davis in the slot because he really makes this block right here to spring Dawson Knox. So that's the thing. Like Dable is really in tune to tight ends, and especially in the red zone. Like the red zone, most of the tight end touchdowns last year were in the red zone, and this play was no different. But it's usually on those mesh concepts, those deep crosses, those over routes on the back line, or it's these slide routes where the Dawson Knox is off the line of scrimmage to the top of the screen. He's sliding down to the bottom of the screen here. But I want you to watch what they do here and setting it up. So you got the play action pass. You see Gabriel Davis. You see him pick up that nickel defender right there. So now the Bills have the advantage. There's a safety. They're in a too high look. So the safety's in the end zone on this play. So he is really the only guy that is not blocked here. Demario Davis, he's totally out of position because of that fake to Breida. He's got to stay front side with that fake. So now the Bills have a numbers leverage. They have a hat on a hat right here. And then they have Dawson Knox versus a safety coming from depth. This is great game planning right here. And I like the decisiveness of Josh Allen. He gets rid of the ball quickly. The last game, he ran a bootleg to the bottom of the screen. He, half rolled after the play fake from under center, and he had Dawson Knox on this very same route. But he waited and waited and waited, and it allowed that defender, that linebacker, to come all the way across the field after Josh threw it to Knox and make the tackle for a minimal gain. This time, he's quick. He's on the ball here. He gets rid of the ball to Knox, and that gives Knox, with the good, a well-placed ball, it gives Knox the ability to get his eyes up. Okay, so now his eyes are up. You can see Sanders is to the bottom of the screen. He's off the screen, out of frame. He's blocking well. Davis is moving his feet. He's man on man. So now here comes Marcus Williams from depth. But Dawson Knox has time. He has time to analyze what's happening here, and that's when he's able to make the cutback right there. He's got the ball in his left hand. He pushes Marcus Williams by, gets his head down, braces for contact, and gets into the end zone, man. This is really good game planning by the Bills, getting a hat on a hat, getting a numbers leverage, and then Josh Allen being decisive, getting it to his playmakers, and letting them make plays.
Yeah, this was huge. This is the first drive for the Bills offensively in this game. So first quarter, 7 minutes and 15 seconds, second and goal from the 6.5 yard line. And we've talked about the last several weeks of the Bills getting out in front early versus what they look like when they get down early and how they start to press. So capitalizing on this drive and getting a touchdown in the red zone here and to go up 7-0 was huge for them at this spot. And you hit it on the head with everything to set up this play. But what I love the most about it is from Dable and from Allen, get the ball into a playmaker's hand and create some mismatches, right? Allen gets the ball immediately to Knox, which allows him to, like you said, catch the ball and get upfield right away and be able to look and survey what he's got going on. And at that point, he can just take advantage of his athleticism. He's able to put his foot in the ground and juke a pretty good safety who's able to get an arm on him. But because Knox is strong, he's able to break through it. And you're highlighting in the video right now the block from Gabriel Davis.
Amazing.
his blocking, right? Like from a physical standpoint, not even just a mental, which he obviously is a willing blocker, but from a physical standpoint, he's built for it. He's a big receiver. He's got long arms. He's good at getting into the body of defenders. He seals off that nickel corner, who
100%.
also on this play action fake, that nickel corner bumps inside, which sets up that leverage for Gabriel Davis. But then Davis does a good job of coming out of the gate, as you're showing here. He doesn't get too far up.
Anthony, let me interrupt you because you can't really see it from this angle, but you're right. So the safety was capping him, so he was basically right behind him. So it almost looked like a blitz. And what teams have been doing, as you guys know, is they're sending this guy off the edge on these, a lot of these zone runs, and he's either chasing the play down from if the ball is going to the top of the screen, or he's blowing up the play at the point of attack if the ball is coming towards him. So that's what the Saints are looking to do here. They bump him inside. They bump the safety over the top of Gabriel Davis, and that helps. Like, as you said, Gabriel Davis blocked that corner there.
Yeah, it naturally creates the leverage. You talked about the leverage on this play as a whole. Like Demario Davis gets held inside and isn't able to flow over the top. He gets held inside because of that play action. The nickel corner bumps inside. Also, whether it's because of the blitz or because he's reading the run action that's going on in front of him, at the end of the day, it sets up Gabriel Davis to make this block. And look at stay right on that. That is perfect form right there from Gabriel Davis. He hasn't
Stalking. Stock blocking him.
Exactly, stock blocking him right there. He hasn't gotten too far upfield. He wasn't too aggressive to the point where the nickel corner can go underneath his inside arm and tackle Knox at the 3 or the 4 yard line. He is in perfect stock blocking form right there. Wherever that nickel guy is going, Gabriel Davis is going to be there. He sees the nickel corner start to take an angle towards the goal line, so he moves up front with him, gets into his body or into his kitchen, as you like to say, gets his hands inside, redirects him, and as Greg Thompson, I'm terrible with names today. Greg Thompson commented in the chat already, that touchdown doesn't happen without Gabriel Davis's block. And it's so many things working together, right? It's the play action. It's Josh recognizing the too high in the zone look and he alerts and everybody checks to it. It's the play action. It's the design that creates the leverage. It's Gabriel Davis's block. And then it's getting the ball into a playmaker's hand and allowing him to be bigger and more athletic than the guys trying to tackle him. Really good design and good execution.
Yeah, talk about good design on this next play. So let's set this up. Third quarter, 4th and 2. Obviously, money down here. Ball on the 24-yard line of New Orleans. Ball's on the right hash. Let's start with, the personnel, because this was a touchdown pass to Dawson Knox. They had Dawson Knox to the top of the screen, basically off the hip of Tommy Sweeney, who's the extra tight end in on this play. He is off the line of scrimmage, but they also have Ryan Bates to the top of the screen as an inline tight end. So they basically started with 3 guys to the top. They motioned Dawson Knox to the bottom of the screen here, to the right side of the formation. He's off the ball. And I remember hearing in the press conference about this play, Dawson Knox said normally what he is supposed to do is block the end man on the line of scrimmage. So he's supposed to sell that by blocking the defensive end or edge player and then releasing out into his route. Well, he had no one to block here because Malcolm Jenkins is on the line of scrimmage right outside of Dawson Knox, and he's actually blitzing and is a free rusher on Josh Allen, which Dawson Knox also said he processed. So as Knox came across the formation, Marshawn Lattimore fouled him across the formation. And again, 4th and 2 situation. Bills are showing a run look on this play. So the Saints, they sell out. They bring all of their defensive linemen in. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys on the line of scrimmage. They're all gapping out in the middle of the Bills offensive formation. On the back end, if you look to the right side of the screen, there's only one guy back there. So they're selling out versus the run. The Bills make it look like a run with the personnel, with the alignment, with the formation. And what ends up happening on this play is, again, Dawson Knox sells the block here. Josh Allen opens up to his left, fakes the run to Motor Singletary to the top of the screen. I just love seeing Josh Allen under center, because then we get to see how he's the magician with the ball in his hand. He's showing the ball with his right hand to the defense. And with the ball going from the bottom of the screen to the top of the screen or right to left on the field, you see the defense fast flow. It's 4th and 2. They see the ball out there. They see Motor. All of their keys are screaming, what? Fast flow to the top of the screen, stop the run play. Well, Josh pulls it and, boots out to his right, but he snaps his head around. He sees, damn, Malcolm Jenkins is on me. So what does he do? He does this little shimmy move, almost to slow down the pass rush of Jenkins there. Doesn't
Mhm.
allow him to just play fast and come in and attack him. It buys him some time, and most importantly, it bought Dawson Knox some time. And you see Marshawn Lattimore in that oh shit moment, because Dawson Knox sold it so well. Marshawn's eyes were in the backfield. Well, guess what? Now he's releasing, and Marshawn Lattimore is saying, oh shit, Dawson Knox is out into the open field. Josh rotates his hips, and this is something we always talk about. He's a rotational passer, right? So he does this little jump pass so that his front hip can follow through. He can rotate through, and you'll see that here in the stills. And that ball is just perfectly floated to Knox, and we see a big gain for a touchdown. Of course, get him the ball, let him do what he does best, and that's make things happen after the catch, Anthony.
This play is so beautiful. I mean, they've all been beautiful, the ones that we've gone over tonight. But it's 4th and 2. It's 17-0 in the third quarter. There's 4 minutes and 29 seconds left, and the Bills are going for the throat on the Saints 23-yard line, and about the 23-yard line.
Mm-hmm.
And the Saints know what the Bills like to do in this scenario. They know the threat of Josh Allen sneaking. So like you said, they're gapped out up front. There are 6 guys on the defensive line. There's basically 9 guys in the box if you're counting Lattimore coming over and Jenkins off the edge. So Gabriel Davis is in one-on-one coverage at the bottom of the screen. You've got one safety deep, and everybody but Roby, who's matched up one-on-one on Gabriel Davis at the bottom of the screen, everybody buys this run fake. And you mentioned all the things that make it work. It's the extra lineman. It's the alignment and the formation. It's the run action and the selling of Josh Allen. I love how he shows the ball and extends it. Tom Brady, for years, we've seen it so much of the Bills. How many times have we seen Tom Brady turn around? He shows that ball and then takes it right back and he throws it over the middle to Gronk, who's running like a 10-yard post. We see that so much. That ball fake is tremendous. You get all that free-flowing action, and then this still right here, this image is just perfect. There's just bodies all over.
Yeah.
Guys are just on. Granderson's on the ground. Lattimore is on the ground. They've completely bit into that run fake. There's defenders that are for the Saints right now is Josh is fully into his drop back and rollout. There are defenders for the Saints that are still biting run at this point. So it's just super well done. And then you hit it on the head. Allen does that little shimmy, and that makes Malcolm Jenkins pause his run. He stops making a beeline, and it's just enough to make Jenkins pitter-patter his feet to the point where Josh can buy enough time, and then Dawson Knox just completely blows by Marshawn Lattimore. I love how Josh brings the hip through and is able to fully follow through on this play and make that beautiful throw to Knox. Knox has tons of space, and this is the good one too, right? So for those listening, we're showing the end zone camera angle from the broadcast where Dawson Knox is selling the blocking action. So he comes in motion. His eyes are firmly fixed on Darrell Williams and the man in front of him. So his body position.
Tell him why is that?
Because he's selling that run.
Yes.
He wants to show Marshawn Lattimore and Malcolm Jenkins in front of him right now. Like, here's what I'm keying in on. I'm going to make it look like I'm stepping down. I'm sealing off the edge because we're running left. I'm going to cut off the backside defender. That's what I'm trying to sell right now. His eyes and his body position, everything that we're looking at is telling the defenders, this is a run. This is a run. In addition to the already alignment, extra lineman, everything like that. So the ball is snapped. Jenkins is already run blitzing. He goes screaming off the edge because that's his assignment. Lattimore also, because of Knox's eyes and his body position combined with the play fake, Lattimore also buys run, and he goes inside so hard. He crashes inside so hard that Knox, he basically kind of like slow plays it a little bit, puts his left foot in the ground and takes off. Lattimore is left literally trying to grasp at straws. That's so messed up, dude. He tries to tackle Dawson Knox and try and draw a flag because he gets beat so bad, but he gets beat so bad he can't even tackle him or grab him or bring him down. He literally tries to grasp and grab his towel, grab his feet. He's got nothing. They all crash down because they bite that play fake because of Allen and the play action, but because of what Dawson Knox does and how he sells that block. And then the rest is the touchdown. He gets the ball in his hands. He finishes. He uses his size and his speed and athleticism, gets into the end zone. It's honestly like really well done. This touchdown was a win because of personnel, but also a win because of the play design, and the players executed it to perfection. And I feel really bad for Marshawn Lattimore watching this play over and over, because he's just on the ground. And I mean, as a lot of Saints defenders are on this play, but it's a bad look for that defense.
Yeah, a lot of guys on the ground indoors. That's kind of interesting. Anyways, so on to the final play of this
they should get rid of the
breakdown.
dome. It probably
Yeah,
would
they
help.
should get rid of it. Yeah, it's the pellets' fault. All right.
Yes.
So very similar play here on in the second quarter. This was a 3rd and 2 play to Gabriel Davis. It is again 3rd and 2, ball on the 46-yard line of New Orleans. 11:37 on the clock. It's a pass to Davis for 26 yards. That's what the thing with Gabriel Davis. Last year, it was, explosive plays, red zone. This year, very similar. It's like you need a big play down the field. You need a toe tap and catch along the boundary. It's Gabriel Davis making those plays. And a lot of times, it's when Josh Allen's under center and Gabriel Davis is either bailing him out down the field outside of script, or he is just making plays at that third level against the defense. So we'll talk about the personnel again on this play. Ball is on the right hash. So Ryan Bates is in the game, but he's in at right tackle. They bumped Darrell Williams to the left side of the line. So you have Morse, Bucker, Williams, and Dawkins on the left side, and they have Kumaro and Sanders split out wide. Gabriel Davis was wide to the bottom of the screen, to the right side of the screen here. And then he motions in. Again, that's cueing and keying a run play. 3rd and 2 situation on this. And so formation, alignment, Josh Allen saw this defender right here on the line of scrimmage as a free guy. So a lot of times they have a built-in shifter motion. Well, they'll bring in a guy like Davis to block that guy up. So the motion and that block and everything about that is the illusion of run. And that's what you see Jenkins out here doing, kind of, very similar to what Lattimore did on the last play. And so, again, on the play, you're going to see Josh Allen show the ball. They're showing the ball. He opens clockwise. He's showing the ball to the right side of the formation, to the left side of the defense. Cody Ford, the right guard, is pulling right to left on the screen here. Everything is screaming run play, 3rd and 2. Yep. So Josh is showing the ball here. And then he rotates all the way around and executes that play fake to Devin Singletary. So after he executes that, again, that clockwise motion and fakes it to Devin Singletary, he keeps the ball on his right hip as he reverses field. So he opened up clockwise. Now he's reversing it to bootleg to the right side of the field. So back in the direction he just came from. Again, misdirection, all these false keys to a defense. And that causes, again, this corner right here to kind of peek in on Gabriel Davis, because Gabriel Davis did a great job of, as we talked about in the last play, Dawson Knox, coming down and blocking that edge defender. Well, with the ball hidden, now you're seeing Josh Allen get to the open field. He turns into a passer. And here's the oh shit moment for this cornerback. And here is Gabriel Davis out the front door, wide open. Josh Allen has a lot more time on this play. You can see him get outside of the pocket, and he's able to hit Gabriel Davis down the field, perfectly placed so he can get some yak on that, which is very important for a wide receiver. And just a fantastic play call from top to bottom, and perfect execution from the Bills offense.
Yeah, this is another chess match type of play call from Daboll and the Bills offense. Like everything you mentioned, the alignment and what the Bills got going on up front, in just terms of where the linemen are, combined with an extra offensive lineman, combined with motioning Gabriel Davis down, combined with Gabriel Davis actually blocking. Like, he doesn't just sell it with like his eyes and his body positioning like Dawson Knox did on the play before. Gabriel Davis actually blocks for about like a second and a quarter, which causes Roby, the corner on the outside, to come down hard. He's thinking like, okay, I see the play action. I see the lineman moving. I see Josh show the ball to Singletary. And now my man has crashed down and is cracking on that edge player, which is something that Gabriel Davis has done time and time again. And you mentioned earlier the excitement of having Spencer Brown come back. This is something I'm hugely excited for, because Gabriel Davis's ability to crack on guys on the edge, and then Spencer Brown's ability to fold and get out. Exactly. Work him in space. We saw it on the Breida touchdown against against the Jets on that toss play to the right. I expect to see more of that when Spencer Brown comes back because of his ability to get out in space. And part of that is because of what Gabriel Davis can do to outside linebackers and edge rushers with his crack blocking ability. And the throw is the cherry on top on this play. Josh Allen talked about it coming into the season of wanting better ball placement for his receivers to allow them to get yards after the catch. He hits him perfectly in stride on this play, much like he did on the first Dawson Knox touchdown and allowed his guy to make a play. He gets this ball into Gabriel Davis's hands right over the shoulder, catches perfectly in stride. Gabriel Davis gets upfield, and it's a great throw by Josh. It's a really nice play out in space from Gabriel Davis, but it's all set up by the play action. Josh being under center, the extra lineman, the personnel, the alignment, the execution by Gabriel Davis, and the selling of what they're trying to make it look like, all to take advantage of those keys on the defense. And you said it, those false keys. As an offense, okay, what clues defenders to a run? Okay, you see a pulling guard, you see a flash of color.
Mhm.
Okay, you see your man is cracking down on an edge rusher. Okay, you see the quarterback show the ball. All these things to play mind games and play chess with the defense and then execute it physically. It was another in a long line of well executed and well designed offensive plays, like we talked about at the top of the show. The Bills' adjustments and execution to pinpoint weaknesses on the Saints defense and then build off of that foundation as the game went on to keep playing mind games. It was a really well done game plan, and even more so considering it was a short week.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, we totally lost sight of that. Guys were talking about it leading into the game, and how the game plan has to be whittled down because you can't. You only have so much time on a short week, and what it came down to is the Jimmies and the Joes, right? Not the X's and O's, but I mean, it's hard to say that didn't come down to that when you have plays that look that pretty on film, because it just was a good game plan, and the better team won. I mean, that's the thing. The Bills are the better team here. They should have won like they did in this manner, and they took care of business, and that's all you can ask for on a short week, in a tough environment, in a stressful environment too. When you talk about the travel to go down there on the short week and how the bodies aren't totally healed from the prior game, there are a lot of different factors going against them. So it was nice to see them win in that manner, and it was nice for fans, for us, because we got to enjoy Thanksgiving with a W, which is what we want each and every week, but on Thanksgiving even more so. So a good film breakdown, some really good plays from Ed Oliver, Gabriel Davis, Dawson Knox. It's good to see those two, and even Gabriel Davis, kind of have a revival in the offense, and seeing the breakout performances from the guys like Ed Oliver and Dawson Knox and many others. We're gonna need guys to step up in that manner going forward as this year goes on, with some of the things that and hurdles that the Bills are going to encounter as we move forward, specifically in prime time this coming weekend. Man, some early thoughts on the matchup with the Bills. The Bills have on Monday night, after watching them today. What are your thoughts on that, real quick?
I had the Bills splitting with New England before the season started. And granted, several things have changed for both teams since then, but the Pats are playing good football. And more importantly, they have a high belief in what they're doing now. Like, I think the Patriots team feels like, okay, we're the Patriots and we're back now. They're playing with a lot of swag. They're playing with a lot of confidence and a lot of energy. And they've got a really good running game. They've got a good offensive line. They've got two very good running backs. They make life easy for their QB, their rookie QB in Mac Jones. And they've got a defense that has a bunch of dudes who are playing really good. J.C. Jackson is playing really good. Jalen Mills is playing decent enough. Matthew Judon is having a very good year. Dante Hightower is still strong. Kyle Duggar is having a good year. Devin McCourty's having a good year. They have a squad of dudes. And I know people want to point to the Pats haven't beaten anybody and everybody's throwing out win percentages and, they beat Tennessee today, but Tennessee was wounded, so on and so forth. All that stuff is very understood. This is a well-coached team. This is a much better team than we played last year, that we swept last year in New England. And it's going to be a fight on Monday night. They know everything coming into this game, as do the Bills. And it's going to be a matter of who executes better, who handles the pressure better. But I think for everybody, I don't think, even if the Bills win, this is going to be a tough game. I don't think anybody should be overlooking New England because they have a rookie QB or the people still saying they haven't beaten anyone, yada, yada. this is the team that has played several teams close, and they're coming in with a ton of confidence and playing well. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, I mean, and the Patriots have always, and their coaching staff, Belichick, always loved that us versus them mentality. They have the confidence, they're on a roll, but they're
Yeah.
going on the road, and that worries me. I don't like the matchup, but what they're going to do is try to reassert big brother dominance, right? They're going to come in there. They're going to punch the Bills in the face. They're going to really take it to them physically. That's what they're going to try to do. They're going to try to bully the Bills and break their will early. That's what they're going to do, guys. We have to prepare for that. And I think the Bills will be prepared for that. But can the guys up front in the trenches win? Because that's what it's going to come down to.
Yep.
And not that it doesn't every week, but I think this game more than prior games. That's why the Bills, as guys have been saying in the chat box, is they need the Spencer Browns back, they need the Felicianos back because of the attitude they bring in the trenches. And the Patriots defense is really good. They're going to need some of those bigger guys, some of those nastier guys, because it's going to come down to the trenches and on both sides of the ball. And I just don't want the Bills to come out flat-footed and not emotional, because that's what the Patriots want. They want to break their will. And I think that's going to be the story of the game. And much like the Bills did in this game against the Saints, they controlled the line of scrimmage on both sides. And that's why, thank you very much, Mr. Diggs. We appreciate it. And we appreciate everyone tuning in. With that said, we are going to be taking off now on the Sunday edition of the Film Room. Anthony, let everyone know where they can find you on the network this week.
You can find me Wednesday night at 7 p.m. hosting Disguised Coverage. You can find me Thursday night doing the Cover One Fantasy Football Show. And then you can find me next Monday night. I guess technically it's still kind of part of this week if we're looking at the NFL weekly schedule, as one of the 3 co-hosts of the Cover One postgame show, along with Mr. Greg Thompson and Mr. Aaron Quinn. And as always, you can find me here with Mr. Eric Turner in the Cover One Film Room. And I appreciate everyone.
Yeah, thank you for joining us in the Film Room again. Be tuned. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and everything like that. We have shows every single night of the week. And as I get time throughout the week, I throw in mini breakdowns, 2 to 3 minute breakdowns or more throughout the week as I comb through the film, because, we prepare for this Film Room usually for Tuesday nights. And so we're usually focusing on specific things. So I don't really get to break down specific players and stuff like that. But I did today. I had some extra time, so I did Gabriel Davis. Get to the channel and take a look at the cut-ups I did of Gabriel Davis, because it was a phenomenal game from him, as we talked about. And we'll have more breakdowns, not just of this game, the Saints game, but of the upcoming opponent on Monday night. So, again, I am Eric Turner. That's Anthony Prohaska from Disguised Coverage, and we will see you in the Film Room next week.